Hey everyone, I'm Jason from Trading Games, and this is...
I'm Chris. I also work at Trading Games.
And what we wanted to come at you with today in this new video, which is a little different than all the other videos that we've done, is we want to talk about video games, but basically we want to talk about Wata, grading games, factory sealed games that are being graded, CIB games that are being graded, and kind of move into how you go about doing that, and also about how you go about collecting those and selling those on the web group called, or the auction house called Heritage Auctions. So, but what we're really looking for is feedback down in the comments and questions so we can actually do more videos like this and actually work off of the questions and the comments that we see, like follow up to this video. And we really talk about it a lot at the store.
A lot.
We're not experts at it by any means, but we actually have a lot of insight into it. We have some behind the scenes stuff that we can talk about a little bit in the industry, in the Wata industry and the games industry. And me and Chris always are sparking up conversations, so we're just going to run with it and hopefully enjoy this video. But in case you don't know, Chris has worked here at Trading Games for over a year now, and but I knew Chris well before that as a customer coming in the store, and that's why I hired him on to be the manager of the store. And I've been here almost 20 years in the retail business of running games and going out to shows and everything, and different other credentials behind my name. So when we talk about this stuff, it's always, if we start talking about money and speculative stuff, that's just always, we're not recommending anybody do this as an investment. It's just, ideas that everybody wants to talk about, and that's what we're here to share.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of muster going on with the grading scene going on in video games, and it's being crossed over with a lot of other collectible hobbies, and it's just something that we're both pretty interested in, and we've been following pretty much since Wata's inception at the very least. From collecting before and after, there's a direction that everything's going, and I think we both pay a lot of attention to it. I know a lot of people have mixed opinions on it, but at the very least it's interesting to watch and see how it's affecting everything else around it. So.
There's so many new people coming into this hobby, and we've been talking about, is there 3 or 4 different types of people or groups that are getting into it, and you just have your people who play games, just people who play games. They could care less. They want it cheap as they can get it, or they'll buy it retail, they don't care. We have collectors who've been in a long time, who are new to it and just collect games they want and maybe go for subsets, complete sets, it doesn't matter. And then we have people that are really into finishing an entire collection and then selling it. Maybe they're more geared towards resellers. And then...
it's something that I kind of have talked about recently, and that I kind of think, especially with the sealed collecting and grading going on, that I think that video games by nature have always had like a large amount of collectors that surrounded this hobby. I've done collectibles from not just video games, but like comic books and Pokemon cards and Beanie Babies when I was 10, But it's really, you're starting to see video games cross over into more what I like to call the collectibles community, right? So it was kind of a tight-knit circle of people for a really long time, and it continues to grow every single year, especially with YouTube and podcasts and news sites reporting on it, and the hobby is really being seen by a lot of eyes that weren't there before, and it's really changing the landscape of things. So
yeah, what really spurs us on in talking about video games lately, though, the hot topic is selling graded video games. And so that's kind of the direction we want to go with talking on our first video together. But we want to start with what games end up there, kind of at the beginning, and how you decide, not a long-winded how you decide on what you're going to get graded, but just like a general guide. And let's just kind of get into that.
Okay. Well, Wata is a little bit different from some of its predecessors. Basically, Wata will grade more than just sealed games. So Wata does sealed games, Wata does complete box games, which is different from a lot of people. They've currently suspended their prototype program, but it will be returning likely in 2021 from what we see. And I think something that I find that's interesting is you've probably bought a lot of games that someone told you was a mint copy, right? And when you really start getting into this grading thing, you really have to look at games with a different analytical eye if you want to submit this off to a company that's going to certify it, because they're going to notice every possible thing that's wrong with that box. You know, they have a team of people that have been doing this for a really, really long time, and they continue to grow. And I don't know, for me personally, it's definitely really changed my perception of what a perfect copy is, right? There's games that you might have looked at, especially complete in box, you know. We didn't really talk about it, but the way Wata kind of does this is if it's a sealed game, your box gets a number grade assigned to it. And I know this is stuff that a lot of people have probably heard, but if you haven't, the box gets a number assigned to it, and the plastic gets a letter grade assigned to it. So you basically have two things that you're, you know, dinged on or you're being graded on. And with complete in box, it's a average of the box, the cart, and the manual. So you might have a perfect box and not a perfect cartridge, and those two things are going to affect each other, and so on and so forth. So I like to do some complete in box things personally, and again, it's really kind of taught me that every nick makes a difference, you know, from a puffy corner to, you know, something. It is notated and noticed.
We don't want to discourage having a game graded if you feel like it's something fun to do. The cost is no less than $50 or so, up to $175. There's all these in-betweens on speed and what you're having graded. But we never want to discourage anybody from, if they've had a game a long time in their collection and they don't want to get rid of it, and they just want to get it encapsulated, and that's to preserve it and to make sure it doesn't receive any more damage. It's also to authenticate that it's an original factory sealed game. If it's open, you want to authenticate that it has all the proper contents inside of it and notate their condition, and then get it slabbed and sealed and preserved. That's really the reason for grading a video game, and why the demand is there. And then, of course, then it moves into keeping them for your collection or selling them on the open market. So what's fun about it is you can get anything graded you want in any condition you want. You know, you can go for the best and try to get 10s, which doesn't happen very often. And you can get this one that you grew up with. You maybe had bought it in 1986 or even an older Atari game, and you just want to get it graded. And, you know, it's open and it grades a 3, and it's like, but then it's preserved. And that's the start of deciding if you're going to get something graded.
Well, and there's also no right or wrong way to collect, right? If it's something that's important to you, you know, I have a boxed copy of Chrono Trigger I bought 10 years ago. I've had multiple opportunities to update that copy, but I got it from an original owner, and to me it's like my copy now. So I could get a nicer copy, but this one is more special to me than having a mint-tier one.
There's always a story behind what you taken into your collection. The stories are what make them fun.
Absolutely.
You can buy anything you want.
Exactly.
It's just money. You know what I mean? And eBay and a little bit of time. But the story behind how you got something is what's neat.
Correct.
And maybe that's what you're preserving.
And that's what's nice with this graded world now, is that, like, you can preserve a game. You know, I think that a lot of people say and wonder, you know, what do you hear the most is, why would you grade a video game? You can't play it, right? And so that's usually the number one argument that people present. Usually what I say back to that is, I can't read a comic book if it's in plastic, and I can't play with a toy if it's in plastic, right? Kind of doubles back to what I had said earlier, which is, these are kind of crossing into a collectibles territory, right? Where it's past just collecting. And so sometimes you just don't want it to degrade, and you want it authenticated, and, you know, in some instances you want to preserve the artwork on the box, you know, or again, you just want to know that what you have, there's no discrepancy between it, you know. At this point, someone has certified it to be real, and based on a panel of experts and the community that surrounds it, that they deem it's near mint or near mint plus or very fine, and so on and so forth, you know. And it really, you know, even today, you know, we had a customer and I was showing him a repro copy that we just have in a junk drawer of Conker's Bad Fur Day, and, you know, I think as collectors, we kind of take advantage that, we really, not take it for advantage, but take for granted that we are more educated than most people. I can spot a Repro Conquerors within, 3 seconds. A lot of people can't,
So they might not care.
Yeah, and that's also true. And so when you have services like Wata or VGA or CGC or anyone that's grading collectibles, again, it gives a layer of transparency for the buyer and the seller that they've mediated all that information for you. You don't really need to worry about it.
And the next thing, let's talk about with deciding if you're going to have something graded, is if you are just grading something you're going to keep, or if you are grading something that you're going to sell. And it's a new emerging market. It's on eBay, of course, but Heritage is kind of, Heritage Auctions, based out of Texas, is where the video games are sold. They're the ones selling Wata graded games only right now. And they are building, they've sold 4,000 or so?
Yeah.
In the mid 4,000s, almost 5,000 video games that have been graded so far. So we're starting to see some solid numbers, like history.
Mm-hmm.
So that has actually made this grading kind of really take off, especially with Wata, since Heritage is selling Wata games. And so now there's a lot of people buying games just to resell, and that's fine. We're a business, and that's what we basically do. But some people are being more aggressive, and they're actually like hunting out people's collections and trying to buy their sealed games at high grade so they can get them graded and then flip them down through Heritage Auctions.
Well, something else that I like about Heritage too, if you are someone it's basically our jobs to look at video game prices all day long, right? The market's changing every single day. I think a lot of people that are in the collector community have seen what 2020 has done to a lot of games, something as simple as Kuon on PS2, which, a year and a half ago it might have been like $300, oh my god, and now it's $800, like, oh, what a great deal, right? But if you spend a lot of time looking through eBay, eventually that information kind of gets buried at a brick wall, right? It's not as easy to look back at something on 2016, and you might use something like Worth Point or something like that. But I really like that on Heritage, every single sale is completely transparent and available to anyone that's interested in the information. You can see the exact number that it sold for, you can see the day that it sold for, and I've spent a lot of time watching the live auctions, and it's really fun,
they are pretty fun. Especially when you have stuff for auction.
Yeah, so. Exactly, right? So it's a nice resource in a new lane, I guess, in the video game industry, and Heritage seems like really the place that is working within the Wata community the most. Like you said, you can definitely find some games on eBay and things like that, but a lot of people that are looking for that, again, they've been using Heritage for other things. Heritage does way more than just video games. They have coins and comic books,
paintings,
and the original artwork,
fine art,
Pokemon cards, whatever. It's all on there, right? And video games is something that's kind of new to them, and I think they're just as excited as everybody else because, at this point, it's something that video games are really jumping into our layer of pop culture now, right? From movie Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and all
people
these
are identifying with video games now.
Yeah. Absolutely, most moms probably know what a Fortnite dance is. You know what I mean? If you've, have kids this year, right?
Yeah.
So it's, and video games outsell every other form of media, period. From, again, television, movies, Call of Duty is going to outgross, probably Star Wars, don't quote me on that. But, it really is just something that it's more and more integrated into our pop culture, and it's really only been around for, 35-ish plus years, obviously a little more. You got the late 70s, early 80s, and it just keeps emerging.
Well, to get on to one certain point before we move to another point, I want to talk a little bit about Wata real quick. And about a process of submitting a game to Wata. Basically, if you find a game that you want to get graded, sealed, whatever condition, open, whatever condition, you just, you go on Wata.com, WataGames.com. And this is not a sponsored video by them. It's been on everybody's mind, everybody's want to talk about it, so that's why we're doing it. Basically, you select the title, the platform that it's on, and then the title. You type in the title, you say, yes, this is my game. And you declare a value for that game before it's graded. And let's say it's $100. And then once you click that value, you have an option of how long you want to take to get the game graded. To the process of mailing it in, them taking control of getting it graded and getting it back to you. And you can actually pick it's 6 months of, it's in days, but it's like 6 months, like 170 work days. So 5 work days in a week. All the way down to the fastest that you can get. And, it's like, I want it now for $175 or so.
3 days.
Yeah. So it's all a matter of you getting it to the post office, getting it there, and they take a day or two, to get it processed and into their system. Then they start the process. And once you decide on getting something graded, once you have it in your cart, there's other options too you can do. You can have them clean it for you if you're not an expert on cleaning video games. They're very delicate, and it's like you would never polish a coin with a pencil eraser. You can, but you would never should. So all those factors go into, before you, and you can have them clean it. You can have them do all sorts of different types of encapsulation, badges, and just lots of different little options you have when you're submitting a game. From then there, you just watch your game, through the website, going through the process of being accepted, and they do pre-grading pictures that eventually you get to look at those, like the pre-slabbed pictures. And then once it's graded, if you want to peek before the game's delivered back to you, you can look at your final grade. And then there's some notations, on a box. So this is just Asteroids, a Wata graded game. But this is what you'll receive back in the mail. This is the 3D display. There's also just a flat display. It seems like people are mostly going for a 3D display. It seems to be the most popular. And you'll have stuff like the grade of the shrink wrap and the grade of the box and some notations on it. But that's basically the Wata process. Now, what Wata is experiencing is, at this time, 2020, Christmas 2020, they're really, really busy. Not because of the holidays, just because this market is exploding. And they are being very upfront that their times are taking longer than they can handle. Unfortunately, that's just the whole industry as a whole, not just video games. It's cards and coins, and everybody is just really backed up. Not sure why, but so submission times, if you really want to get it back, unfortunately you have to pay for an upper tier to get it back in a reasonable amount of time. And then if they have experienced any hiccups during the grading, like they don't think your shrink wrap is real, or there's not something that you didn't notice or something, then they'll actually contact you, and that can slow down the process. One thing that might not be 100% accurate, but I feel it's happened, is that if you're going to mail in games in different tiers, like the fast and slow, to make them separate orders. I've done a lot of orders. We've had over about 125 games graded now, batches of 10 and 15 and 20. And I think I made a mistake on one order where I just did a 30-day order and put some 6 months in there. And I think I got my 30-day order back in the reasonable, normal allotted amount of time, but my 6-month order, I think, didn't start until that tier ended. I think that's what happened, and it just took longer. But, if you're doing this for non-flipping reasons, just don't pay the super high rate and just get them back when you get them back. You'll get them back. They're a very trusted company. Do you have anything else to add about Wata?
Well, I will add on to the shipping factor. It is important that Wata announced yesterday that to kind of catch up on their backlog, they're taking a 3-week hold on taking new submissions in. So, Wata's in its infantile stages as a company. I think that a lot of they're doing something that's kind of somewhat uncharted territory. I realize there are other people that have done other graded games and stuff like that, VGA obviously being probably the most prominent one, but they still are a new company, and they are working out kinks, you know. In my personal experience, anytime I've worked with Wata, if I had an issue, their customer service is great. They are pretty responsive.
Very.
They really do. They work with you, you know what I mean? They're transparent. They take ownership. But as it currently stands, you know, Wata is on a hold until January the 9th. So I think they're probably taking a little bit of time to enjoy some of their holidays and just knock out some of these orders that have been lingering for some people. They're in the process of a move, and they're in the process of streamlining a new streamlined process, right? So during that transitional period, they are just kind of taking a small break from submissions right now, and hopefully come, you know, next year, it'll just get that much better.
I think it's great.
Forward,
I think it's great they're taking a little break.
Me too.
They should maybe do it again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? In the future, if they end up being behind.
I did see
mean, it's
some people suggest maybe they do quarterly holds and stuff like
Yeah.
that, depending on how it goes, right?
Yeah, depending how it goes, you never know. I mean, those guys are working their butts off there. I
Yeah,
do know that
I
much.
agree.
I do, and I know they are hiring also. So they've reached out to me before, you know, about possibly working there. And unfortunately, I love trading games a lot, and it's been good to me for almost 20 years. So, but I really love the guys there. So that's why we're plugging them so hard.
Well, you know, and the other thing that's, you know, important, like you said, they're hiring, right? But they're not just hiring someone.
Oh, no, you have to be very qualified.
You need to know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
You have to be very qualified.
Where you know, you're not going to be someone that they want to look at, right? And that's good. You know, transparency is important in this, and I think that's what a lot of people, you know, I don't care what you do. It's the internet at this point. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to challenge you or what you're trying to do or say their own opinions, and that's your right to do so, right? But with that being said, you know, they are trying to get the best team they possibly can get, you know.
It's a good team.
Yep, and they do have a good pedigree, you know. There's a lot of people that come from this other collectible worlds and things like that, and I think they just see a future for graded video games, you know. And I think some of these things, obviously, there's a lot of news sites reporting on them and stuff like that, and, you know, especially if you've been doing this as long as you, 20 years or 15 years or 10 years, it's crazy to see some of that, but crazy or not, it's here and it's happening, right? It's definitely something that's real, right? And
it can't be ignored anymore. It can't be, man, those graded games, that's so stupid. And a lot of people have that attitude, and that's fine. I actually thought like that 2 years ago, and you know, when there only VGA was around, and I was just not interested in grading video games. First of all, I thought, why have a sealed game? I just ended up with a lot of them because a sealed one would come in, and it was so much harder to sell a sealed game than an open game. Then I would just sell my open one and keep the sealed one, so I didn't have to worry about trying to please somebody. That's how I ended up with so many sealed games. Never collected sealed games myself. So, but Wata as a whole is that's kind of like the whole process, you know. And then you receive them back, you know, with tracking and.
You know, I had a personal order that I submitted on the 17th, and I already got it of November, and I already got it back. So it's sitting in. I have it in my own personal possession. So you know, some of the stuff moves fast. You know, it really just depends on your tiers, and you know, probably. Yeah. My order was small, so you know,
I have
some of that has
huge orders. Yeah. 24 games, 6-month orders, but then I throw little ones in between, and that just kind of keeps the cycle going if you have a lot of things to grade. So it's fun. It's actually just put fun back into.
Really took the words out.
Yeah, into getting it again. It's like, oh, they've had them sitting around. They're on a shelf, you know, just like big game collections. They're just sitting there, and it's like kind of boring. And oh, look, I have this. But then let's get some grades, you know, and it's just for fun. So
I'm finding a lot of fun, you know, getting better at determining what a game's grade is before I submit it. You know, we've been pretty close on most games. You know, we continue to learn. You know, and kind of, you know, Wata offers a graders report, which we've only done a little bit of, but you know, it's just nice to kind of look at something and be like, oh, okay, I see this, this, and this. I'm going for it's probably an 8.5, and sometimes it's right. You know, so and
sometimes better.
You know,
sometimes worse.
And Wata does have an actual grading scale with pictures on their website. I do think it needs to be updated a little bit just because it's helpful, but it's not perfect.
It's so hard to see the difference.
It is, yeah. So it's like I don't fault them for it, you know what I mean? But I will tell you, if you think that you can just go off that and then just like, oh, I'm going to be an expert now, like it's probably not going to work out that way. You got to look at a lot of games and pay a lot of attention, you know what I mean? But you know, that's not really what you're supposed to do anyway. That's what they're supposed to do, right? You send it to them for that purpose, you know?
So. If you could leave down in the comments, if you just want to talk about Wata, shoot us. We could just do a video all about Wata and get it in depth as you want to go with it. We have a lot of experience with it now, from deciding what's Wata worthy, how much, and we can talk about how much games are worth, possibly before you grade them and after you grade them, and that's down in the comments. And we will gladly put that video together. But let's talk a little bit about, you know, what you can do with your Wata games once you get them back. You know,
and once you actually receive your order, there's you have a couple options. It's completely up to you. Again, a lot of people will keep them in their own personal collection. You know, I think that as you're faced with a decision, if we would have been having this conversation a year ago, you might have thought someone was crazy if they were like, someone's offering you $10,000 for Mario Brothers, like, why wouldn't you take it? And then one sells for $150,000 a year later. It's who knows what's going to happen, you know, and that's the speculation aspect. So you can choose to hold, you can choose to sell. You have eBay, you have Heritage, you have Comic Connection, you have you know, independent private party with people, you know.
Some web Facebook groups.
Exactly.
Mostly.
And I'm sure on some of the like really higher end stuff, you know, games that are crossing the six-figure markers, there's probably NDAs involved, and there's probably privatized sales. You know, it's like when someone sells like NWC Gold Card, it's not necessarily public information that they want to share that they did that, right? And that's their prerogative. But you have a lot of different options of what you can do with them, you know. I think the majority of people that are buying them, I think there's a lot of people that are probably doing it for speculation, but I think there's just as many people that are wanting to collect them, and they've breathed a new birth into the hobby for them.
We wouldn't know any numbers factually, but it's probably 50-50, honestly. I mean, but there's a really hard leaning right now towards buying to resell, to flip via Heritage auctions mostly, especially on the high-end stuff, commanding a premium down there at Heritage. So, you know, once you receive your game and you decide if you want to keep it, you keep it. If you decide to put it on eBay and put a buy now price on it of $1,000 for this game, then that's fine. Let's say you decide to sell your game down Heritage. What we found out is that Heritage wants to co-sign a reasonable dollar amount of video games. They just, this game, $300 or $400 right now in a high grade 9.4. That typically wouldn't be enough of a submission for Heritage, is what we're hearing from customers who come in the store who have had some games graded, and from our experience too. So once you've put together a small lot of video games to sell down there, and it's going to command a few $1,000s, then typically Heritage you can co-sign your games away down the Heritage, and they have somebody you contact down there who's in charge of video games, and you actually have to fill out some forms and some disclosures, some NDAs and stuff like that, and you also have to decide on a commission price on how much they're going to charge the person selling the video game, and typically their advertised rates are about 15%.
Give or take.
Yeah, give or take. We found definitely in our experience and in customers that they usually offer you a good percentage right off the bat based on how much you're going to sell at a better rate than that 15%. That's just standard. The next way that Heritage makes their money
is off the buyer's premium. So this is something that I really like about Heritage Auction. As someone that does a fair amount of eBay, we're kind of in this world where, like, if you've ever sold on eBay, 100% eBay always sides with the buyer no matter what possibly happens.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of scams that go on for both buyers and sellers. I'm not discrediting people buying on eBay by any means. But with that being said, I kind of look at it like eBay desperately needs buyers. They make up a very small percentage of overall on e-commerce, right? So they need people to be shopping on there versus Amazon and Walmart.com and things like that. Heritage is almost kind of the counter flip. There's other places that people could sell it, and they want to sell your stuff. So they're making a 20% on the front end of the buyers pay 20% on top of whatever they sell. So if something sells for $10,000, it ends at $12,000, and the buyer pays $12,000. Say 20%. $2,000. So they know that they will still make a commission off every sale no matter what. So if you have some stuff that not a lot of people have, they would love to be the ones to sell it for you. They have the market, right? There isn't anyone coming into trading games that wants to spend six figures on a video game, you know?
Right.
And so it's like, they do. They know those people that are looking to do that, and so they work with their sellers in that process, which, you know, I think is pretty cool. You know?
Yeah, and it's safe, like you're saying. I believe Heritage has, I've seen numbers, I think it's over 2 million registered users.
Yeah, I buy that.
Yeah, and there isn't this shill billing going on. There's not this, or shill bidding, and every customer who bids has to be qualified to bid, you know, and backed up their account, you know, which is nice. I'm assuming some people who spend lots of money actually have to have accounts set up and everything with them too, and bank account access and stuff like that to prove you can buy. So it's not a joke. It's a pretty serious industry, and in my experience, you know, I've sold now over 50 or so. No, maybe not that many.
Not too far off.
Yeah, not too far off.
Over 30 games at least.
Yeah, over 30.
Currently.
Yeah,
with
at
more
Heritage,
on the docket.
with zero hiccups.
Yep.
We've done some regular Monday night auctions, what they call them, and then we had, since we've been doing it, we had one of the premier or the signature auctions down there where they actually had some print media that went out way before the auction, and then it was like
really
more
cool
of an event
too. They really do a good job putting together like a portfolio for their buyers, right?
Yeah.
Where they give a little detailed description about each game and, you know, why it's important, and, you know, it's pretty cool to see a book full of 400 video games for sale, you know, in 2020, right? So a book.
So once Heritage receives your game, they'll assign it a date, and that could be soon or that could be months. It all depends. You let them decide when it will be auctioned, and they also guide it through the process to make sure there's not too many of the same game, or it's more of a premier item and they want it to fall on certain dates and times. So they decide all that, and you have a portal that you can log into. And basically the auctions, all typically 7-day auctions, and throughout the whole week, you know, it may go up a lot or little. I mean, I've had super rare games be at $1 all week long, and then the last day they jump significantly. But then what happens that's really fun, which is the really funnest part, is they actually have like a live auction at the end. Now it's a bot, you know, a robot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a real person, and it'll be up for 7 days, and it'll be people putting in their bids, their maximum amounts, and then for the last few hours, it's actually off that type of market, and it's to a Heritage Live, and they actually have people in person on the floor, phones, internet, bidding during this process, and they go game by game by game by game like a real auction house would do. And at that point, you know, it's like you can be, you know, floor, phone, internet, and the price will just keep going up, and it's like going once, going twice, you know, and so on and so forth until hammer goes down. They move on to the next game. Then you can, at the end of the night, you can log into your portal and see how you did. It's a lot of fun. It's like eBay. It's a lot like eBay. At the end, you get to see how all your auctions ended.
And I do like that it does notate if a person is bidding live in person or on the internet or over the phone and
you can
stuff
see
like that.
the whole entire history.
It notates who and where they are, you know. So that's important to know too, you know.
And then they're very clear, like if this auction ended on the 1st of November, that they will clear it 5 weeks later and then mail out a check 6 at 6 weeks. It's all different. It depends on the auction. And that's just probably their time to make sure the item has shipped, been received, and it's been approved and everything. And I've had 0 backouts or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
I actually don't know how that works. I mean, I don't think it happens too often.
no, I don't think it really happens
I really don't.
at all. I
Yeah.
mean, the people who are really buying are pretty legit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's
So-
small money, but I sold a sealed copy of a game on eBay and they tried to return it as not working 3 weeks later. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to mess with that at all.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with that. So, I mean, that's just one of the avenues you can do with your games, and that's heritage auctions. And like we said, there's other groups. If you feel like somebody's offering you a fair price, you can take it, and you just sell it on Facebook Marketplace in your hometown if you want. You know what I mean? As long as you come up with a price, and you're happy with it. So sometimes it's fun letting it ride at auction, and sometimes you just point in.
There's also a really good community behind it. If you start to search for it on the internet, on Facebook and stuff like that, it's interesting because there's so many people that like kind of still think it's a little crazy that half the community will be like, oh, Wata, that's crazy. But like the people that do know, they're very accepting to help you identify if your game's a sealed, educate you. I really like a group called High End Game Room. That's probably that. And then there's other groups like Show Off Your Wata certified games and other stuff like that. You know, there are some
always
good groups out
have
there.
me and Chris here at Trading Games. We've actually probably 4 or 5 customers with some pretty big deal.
And some of them have made it to Heritage. It's cool to be like, hey, we helped with that, and that's his. I know that.
More than just a few have got games created because of us and for their collections for all various reasons. But we've had a few who really needed a walk through the whole process of, should I get it graded? What do you think it will do? And what do you think it will sell for? And we've helped them decide to move through that process. About the only thing we're not doing is we are not doing that process for the people because there's too much liability in taking your game and being responsible for all those steps, and it could be $10,000 game, you know.
But we will help educate you, you know, and it's fun for us because, you know, again, both of us love the historical aspect, the preservation aspect. I love seeing cool stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to see good games come into the store and then, you know, again, just be a resource for you guys to help you out, and it just gives us an opportunity to see some cool stuff.
With questions, if you really wanted to talk to us about, do you think it's sealed or what grade do you think it will get, we're not doing too much of that like over the internet and stuff. It's just too hard to. I can instantly hold a game and tell you if it's real shrink wrap or not. Just my fingertips know from holding so much in the years, and then nothing beats in person. But you know, that's what those Facebook groups are for. Basically, they can kind of give you a better idea, and then you kind of work on multiple people reassuring you that it is or isn't.
We're both part of those groups, you know. So
and
we might be responding to you on there.
We participate in there a lot, you know, in comments and everything. The groups are nice, good people. So, well, you know, this is our first time doing this, and we really would love to have some feedback down at the bottom so we can set up another video, maybe fairly shortly, and really talk about this. And we have lots more to talk about. All week long we've been trying to decide what we're going to talk about, and this is probably going to be our longest video. We really like to get down to nitty gritty and talk about one subject so we can actually title it. You know, we're talking about this, we're talking about that, and this is all we do all day long when we're not helping customers at the stores. We just talk. This is really got us very interested in video games again. Not that we're not interested, but it's just a whole new avenue of games. And so you know, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed us talking.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be a little windy video, but that's all right.
Well, and it's fun, you know, and we appreciate it, you know, and thanks for listening to us. You know, we spend a lot of time looking at this market, and so kind of like you said, I don't think anyone's really an expert, but I think we're both more educated than a lot.
Pretty well qualified. I mean,
give some pretty fair insight on this because we've got a lot of experience in it.
Well, fair and honest, and we're not going to make people have expectations that aren't real.
Correct.
So we're not doing it just to be internet famous by any means. You know what I mean? Just help people. So.
Smash that like button. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Cameo, and
Trading Games on everything, you guys. If you found this video on Trading Games, hopefully you know that we have the Trading Games website for all of the store stuff, and you know, and then the store in Fenton, Missouri, and you know, and then we're at all the shows all around the country. When they start again, we'll be at them, and so hopefully none of that's new to you guys, and you know how the internet works and this Facebook stuff works and YouTube stuff works. So.
Maybe a topic for next week. How is this going to affect conventions going forward? Once
Yeah, we
things
can really
happen?
talk about conventions.
Yeah.
Would be good to talk about.
Yep.
So thanks for watching. See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.